Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the new Eachine VR006 goggles. These are pretty tiny. I got a really small screen. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, when I first saw the specs for this and was told I was going to be sent this, I was pretty skeptical. I didn't think this was going to be a very good product. However, after I've been using it for a little bit here, I'm actually really impressed with these. And obviously, you know, it's a low cost item. It's $40. It's got some pretty modest specs, but it performs really well. And I definitely think this is the one to get over the VR007 Pros that I reviewed about a month or so ago. I actually didn't like those very much, and I'll explain why I like this one versus the other one. And it's not just has to do with the price, it has to do with a lot of different things, and I'll explain what those are. First of all, let me go over the specs here and what this comes with. It's very basic. It's got an internal 1S battery in here. I think it's like 500 milliamps. Let me just double check that. Okay, so according to the instructions, there doesn't seem to be any indication as to what the size of the battery is. I do know that it only lasts about an hour and it is an internal battery. It does charge via a USB port here on the side. And they do include a USB cable here. You just need a wall adapter, like your smartphone adapter, to charge it. It doesn't take too long to charge. And the side here is a very simple operation. You've got your on-off button, and that's also the scan button. You got a menu button to go through your menus, and plus minus to increase, decrease values. I'll actually go over this function in a little bit. This comes with two antennas. You get a circular polarized antenna and a patch antenna. I don't believe this is a diversity receiver. I don't think there's two receivers in here and actually does switching. What it claims to do is it detects the strength of the signal from each of the antennas, and the receiver will pick up the stronger signal, and it's a single receiver. So I'm not exactly sure what the magic works. I'm actually going to open this up here a little bit later in the video if you want to see if it's a single or dual receiver. I'm pretty sure it's a single receiver for this price. I can't imagine they putting two receivers in here, but if they're doing some sort of magic in terms of switching from one antenna to another in terms of signal strength, it does seem to be working, because I did do a distance test with this and was able to go at the park where I'm at least 150 meters away, no problem. Very little breakup, I mean just a tiny bit, but you know, honestly, not much worse than the 800Ds that I had just reviewed maybe about 2 weeks ago. So I thought the receiver on here was really good. And actually, I thought this receiver was a lot better than the one that was in the VR007 Pros that had only a single antenna. And I got a lot more breakup on that receiver versus this one. It does come with an AV in jack and the cable for that as well. And I will actually demonstrate that as well. You can switch to this AV input. So if you have don't want to use the receiver in here, and you have, like, say, a ground station with a better receiver, you could plug it in via the AV in jack and get the signal that way as well. So the screen that's in here is only a 3-inch screen, so it's definitely smaller than the 4.3-inch screen on the VR007 Pros. But it's a higher resolution screen. So this one is 500 by 300. The one on the VR07s are 480 by 272. And because they're bigger and a lower resolution, this screen actually looks better. And when I first heard that this has a 3-inch screen, I was extremely skeptical that the image would be usable at all. However, because of the magnifying lens here, which by the way is not, there's no adjuster here. You can't adjust the focus, so that might be an issue for some. The screen looks pretty big and totally usable for FPV, and had no issues with that. Obviously, you know, if you look at Fatstar goggles, they got tiny little screens, and we have no issue with focusing on those. So I guess my doubts about the small screen were probably unfounded. I think the smaller screen plus the higher resolution gives a sharper image versus the VR07. So again, that's another reason why I like this one over the VR007s. And in terms of comfort and fit, it's a pretty, I would say, thin amount of foam here. It fits my face fairly well without much light leakage. And there's an extra piece of foam here for the nose area in case your nose happens to rub against here, but it didn't bother me at all. Now the one thing that was a problem is that where this top strap goes in here, there's actually a hole in the plastic that is right here, and it's kind of hard to see because I've covered up that hole with a piece of electrical tape right here. And so without that hole being covered, you will see a lot of light leakage, and it was very annoying. But once I put that piece of black electrical tape over that hole, which is right underneath where this strap goes in, it's right there. Once you've covered that hole up, there's no light leakage at all, and I didn't get any, I mean, just a tiny bit from the nose area. I think if I put that foam there, that would probably get rid of it. This shape happens to fit my face particularly well. I actually had no light leakage at all. So obviously this is very subjective. Everyone's face is going to be different shapes, so you may need to get extra pieces of foam or something like that to provide additional padding or to fit your face better. So that's something to be aware of. Another reason I like these a lot is that they're pretty lightweight. They're about 165 grams, so they don't put hardly any pressure on your face at all. Another good reason is I can lift them up over my, put them on my forehead like I do my Fat Shark goggles, and they don't fall down like the VR D2 Pros or the EV800Ds, because those are heavier and longer, so they just tend to fall off my face and I have to actually take them completely off my head if I don't want to use them. So here's a little side-by-side comparison of the size. These are the VR007s on the right. You can see that the 006s are much smaller. And you can see the size of the screen. Also from the side, the 007s are actually a lot heavier, even though you're using a separate battery that goes to the side or the back of your head. This is definitely a lot heavier, even though this has an internal battery. Okay, so I got the goggles powered on, and just wanted to show you what the OST looks like. On the lower left, you got the battery voltage of the goggles, and it's a 1S battery, so it's at 3.8 volts currently. And the frequency is on the bottom right, and it's at 5860. It's a Fat Shark 7. Now, the OSD, as far as I know, there's no way to turn it off, and I'll actually, on a lot of my drones, I have a built-in OSD like the Betaflight OSD, where I have my flight time and battery voltage in the lower right and lower left corners, so that overlaps, the OSD on this one overlaps those, so it is kind of annoying, which means I'd have to move those values to, say, the top of the screen or somewhere else if I want to use these goggles. So that's something to keep in mind. I wish they would give you the option to turn these off, because when you have your own OSD, you know, it's nice to have these on the goggles so you can turn them on and check the battery voltage on the goggles, but you don't need that on there all the time. And also the frequency, you don't need that on there all the time either, because once you tune it in, you usually only need to check it if you're going to change channels. So it would be nice if that would, like, come on for a little bit and then time out and then go off the screen. Actually, I would prefer that instead of being on all the time, which is kind of a distraction. I'm going to go ahead and I'll plug in the AV jack here, and we'll show a video source. So this is just a CCD camera, and we just use the menu button here to bring up the different menu selections that you can change. So here you got brightness, contrast, saturation, input AV out, and hit the plus minus to switch your video source. So you can see there, just go back and forth, and that brings the camera that's connected. Okay, so it's going to be a little hard to show the image quality through the camera, and obviously the nose piece there is sort of blocking part of the view, but here is a little bit of a look at what the image quality looks like. Like I said before, because it's got a higher resolution screen, even though it is smaller, with it very close to your face, it looks actually pretty big, and the details are pretty sharp. I'm going to try and do this again here with the actually the goggle case off, and we'll see what maybe that'll give you a better idea what the screen or the image quality looks like in the resolution. It's really hard to show in the video here like this, but that's the best I could do. Okay guys, so I took the goggles apart, and you just got to take 4 screws off the bottom here, and you do need to slice up your foam padding on your for the face to split this apart. And you can see here there's a Fresnel lens in here. This looks like it's glued in. I don't want to come out, but it doesn't need to come out. And a little black foam here, probably to absorb any kind of light, but it comes out pretty easily. I think this is the bottom, and then here's the top here. There's the four buttons here, obviously on the right side, and you got a little little connector here that goes into the receiver. And then this is the battery. It's just a 1S battery, and they got it glued on or foam taped to the sidewall here, and you got a little connector here, so you could possibly hack this and put a larger 1S battery in here if you want more runtime, because it only lasts about an hour before you need to charge it up again. But then again, it does make it heavier if you put a heavier battery in here, so it doesn't say what size it is. I'm thinking this is something like a 500 milliamp hour 1S. That's my guess as to what the size would be. So this is the actual guts and all the electronics. You got the screen itself here, 500 by 300 LCD screen, 3 inches diagonally, and there's nothing on the other side. It is connected by a ribbon cable to the other side of this receiver, and that's where the ribbon cable connects in here. You can see you got your 2 antennas, and as I suspected, there's only one receiver module, so they're doing some sort of magic to determine which is giving you the better signal strength. Now, this is definitely not novel. I believe the Fat Shark diversity module for most Fat Shark goggles is a single receiver with dual antennas, and probably does the same sort of voodoo to find the best signal. So you got your 2 connectors here for the buttons and the battery, and you got your USB plug here for charging. Not a whole lot going on in this board here, but if you guys have any interest and maybe want to do mods, you could take a look at this image here and see if it's good for mods. I'm thinking it might be possible to add a DVR, the Eachine Pro DVR, because there is audio AV VBAT here. I'm not exactly sure what those are. There's no documentation, obviously, but if I'd have to have a guess, it's probably where you could tap into the video signal to hook up a DVR. So I don't know if there's any interest in that, but let me know in the comments if someone wants to see a mod. I might look into it. I know that I ask people, like, oh, if there's any interest in this, please leave a comment, and I get like 10 comments, and if I get 10 comments, I'm not going to do anything. If I get 100 comments, I'll consider it. So that's the threshold for whether or not I'm actually going to do anything based on the comments, so you decide if you want to leave a comment or not. But yeah, it's pretty simple, and that's probably why it's so low cost. There's not a whole lot that's going on here, but it seems to work pretty good. Okay, so now that I got the Fresnel lens out of the way, and you can see the actual screen here in its full resolution, I think that this is a pretty good representation of what the image quality will be when you look at it through the goggles. It's very, very clear. Not as nice as a larger, obviously 5-inch screen at 800 by 480, but at 3 inches and 500 by 300, it's pretty damn good in my opinion. This is you're looking through a CCD camera here. This is a HS1177 type camera, and it's pretty much in focus. And there's obviously a little bit of glare there on the screen because of the lighting in my studio here, but I would say this is pretty accurate for what the image looks like through the goggles. And if this looks acceptable to you, then I would say this is pretty accurate. Okay, so in conclusion, overall, my pick is this one definitely over the VR007s. They're lighter, they have a better image on the screen, and better reception from the receiver. I don't like the OSD that much. I do like the fact that it does give you the frequency, and does actually give you a number for the battery voltage. Because like on the EV800s, it just gives you a little battery bar, which I don't think is that accurate. I actually like the actual number itself, but I wish they would give us the option to turn the OSD off. Other than that, I think it's fine. The interface is very easy to use, very simple. You know, you can change your brightness, contrast settings, that kind of stuff. Pretty basic stuff there. The changing of the channels is kind of annoying. It just goes up one channel at a time, and it doesn't tell you what band you're on, so you just basically have to kind of keep going until you hit your channel number, which is kind of annoying. I actually found it easier to use the scan button, but that is only really going to work well if you're only the only signal that it can lock onto. However, that being said, it didn't take very long for it to lock onto my signal, and once it found it, it just left it. There's the channel that I normally fly on. Personally, I found the fit to be pretty good for me, and it was very comfortable even though the foam is pretty thin, but I think it has to do with the fact that the shape of the goggle fits my face pretty well. For this particular goggle, they didn't have any issue with focusing on the screen. The Fresnel lens seemed to be in a good spot for me. However, if your vision is different from mine, obviously you may have some issues. I thought it was actually okay. It was sharp. The image was very visible for me. I didn't have any issues with that. So overall, my recommendation is this is a good product. I think it's well worth the $40. Really good for backup. And definitely good for a passenger set of goggles for, say, one of your friends that maybe is not really into FPV, just wants to tag along and go for rides. Very good image quality, good reception, definitely usable. And I like the fact it also has the AV jack, so you can use an external receiver if you want. If you want to do something a little more long range perhaps, or if you want to use some sort of different receiver, you can definitely do that and just use the screen. So if you were on the fence about this and not really sure if you wanted to get this or not, or maybe weren't sure about this one over the VR07s, I would say get this over the VR07s is definitely a lot better. Now, of course, this doesn't have a DVR, so if you need DVR functionality, I'd recommend getting the VR D2 Pros that has a built-in DVR. Obviously, there might be a way to add a DVR to this, but I'm not 100% sure, and that's probably going to take a lot of research. If anyone knows, and if you see the circuit board and you know exactly how to add a DVR, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll investigate that a little bit further. Anyway guys, this product gets a big thumbs up for me. I'm super impressed with the price and the quality for what you get. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.